Welcome to this Crochet Octopus tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to crochet this adorable octopus plushie. Let's get straight into the video. So the materials that you are going to need are a crochet hook. I'm going to be using a 5mm as that is what is recommended for my yarn type. A yarn needle, scissors. I'm going to be using 12mm safety eyes, but you can sew on the eyes if you don't have any safety eyes. I'll be using weight 6 yarn. I'm using the brand Premier Parfait Chunky yarn, but you can also use smaller yarn to make your octopus. It will just turn out a lot smaller. And finally, you will need some stuffing. So we're going to begin by grabbing our crochet hook and our yarn. And the first thing that we will be doing is making a magic ring. So I use the 2-chain method to make my magic ring, and I will be showing you how to do that. So we're going to begin by making a slip knot. So to do that, I'm going to make an X with the yarn over my finger, and then I'm going to hold that there, and I'm going to put my hook through the top of the X and pull the other side of the X through. So now you've made your slip knot. We're going to tighten that by pulling on both ends of the yarn. Now we are going to chain 2. So we're going to chain 1, pull it through, and then chain 2 and pull it through. So the first chain that we made is going to act as our magic ring. So here's the first chain that we made, and that's where we're going to be doing our single crochets into for the next round. So for round 1, we are going to be doing 6 single crochets into our magic ring. So we are going to put our hook into that first chain, and then we're going to pull through some yarn so that we have 2 loops on our hook. And now we are going to pull yarn through both of those 2 loops. So that's a single crochet. So that's 1. We need to do 6 of those. So we'll do another one. So we'll put our hook into the first chain, and we'll yarn over and pull through, and then we'll yarn over and pull through both of those 2 loops. So now you've done 2 single crochets into the magic ring, and you'll need to do 4 more. So now we have 6 single crochets at the end of round 1. So for round 2, we're going to be doing 6 increases, and this will take us up to 12 stitches. To do an increase, you will do 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, and we're going to be doing that 6 times. So we'll find the first stitch, and it's over here, and we're going to put our hook into that stitch. And now we're going to do 1 single crochet into that stitch and 2 single crochets, so back into the same stitch. And we're just going to do that 5 more times into the remaining stitches until we have 12 stitches in total. So now we're going to put our hook into where we just did the stitch, and we're going to put our stitch marker in. I just use scrap yarn as my stitch marker, so I'm just going to pull through that yarn. And now we're going to move on to the following round. So for the following round, we're going to be doing single crochet, then increase, times by 6, which will take us up to 18 stitches. So this pattern is basically doing a single crochet into the first stitch, and then an increase into the next stitch. And then you'll do a single crochet into the next stitch, an increase in the next stitch, etc., etc., until you've done that 6 times. So single crochet in first stitch, increase in second stitch, and then do that 6 times round. For the following round, we are going to be doing 2 single crochets and an increase times by 6, and this will take us up to 24 stitches. Similar to the last round, this is also a pattern, so we do a single crochet in the first stitch, a single crochet in the second stitch, and then an increase in the next stitch, and then we repeat that pattern 6 times in total. Now we should have 24 stitches at the end of the last round. So for round 5, we are going to be doing 3 single crochets and an increase times by 6, and this will take us up to 30 stitches. Now we are going to be single crocheting for 3 rounds. So we're going to single crochet the whole way round once, then twice, and then a third time. So we'll be single crocheting 30 stitches 3 times. So go ahead and do that. So once we have completed those 3 rounds, for the next round we are going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease times by 6, which will take us down to 24 stitches. So to do this, we are going to single crochet into the first stitch, into the second stitch as well, and into the third stitch. Now to decrease, we're going to want to go into the next stitch and pull through some yarn And then instead of doing anything with that, we're then going to go into the following stitch and also yarn over and pull through. So now you should have 3 loops on your hook. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. So that's a decrease. So now you're going to do 3 single crochets in a decrease 5 more times to finish off the round. So now for round 10, we are going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease times by 6, which will take us down to 18 stitches. So in the first 2 stitches, we will do a single crochet in each, and then we'll do a decrease in the next 2 stitches. And then you follow that pattern all the way around. So now we are going to be doing the tentacles. So for the following round, we're going to be working into the front loops only. So if you have a close look at each of your stitches, you'll see that they have 2 loops at the top that you can go through. So if I put my hook into the middle of both of those loops from the bottom, from the outside, then that's going into the front loop only. But if I put my hook from the top into the middle, then that's going into the back loop only. So for the following round, we are only going into the front loops only for the whole round. And I'm gonna work around with you as it's a little bit complicated. So we're going to begin by doing a slip stitch into our next stitch into the front loop only. So we'll put our hook in between those 2 loops and we're gonna pull through, and then we're just gonna pull that yarn straight through. So that's a slip stitch. And now we are going to chain 10. So we're going to chain 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now you can see we've done 10 chains here. And now we are going to be increasing back into every one of those chains. So we're going to be increasing 9 times as our final chain that we did is like the turning chain that we made. And we're going to be increasing into each and every one of these chains. So we're going to find the first chain, which is right here. We're going to go into that. So it's a little bit tricky. So put our hook in and we're going to do 1 single crochet and then do another single crochet into that same chain. And we're going to do that in each and every chain until we get right back down to the bottom. So 9 increases. So once you've increased all the way back down that chain, you'll see this is starting to curl up, which is good. And we are now going to slip stitch back into the original stitch that we slip stitched into. So once again, we are going into the front loops only. So we'll find it's right here, the original stitch that we slip stitched into, go into the front loop and slip stitch again. So that's the first tentacle complete. We are now going to slip stitch into the following stitch, and this stitch will not have a tentacle coming out of it. So slip stitch into the following stitch, Now we are going to repeat that process 9 more times. So I'm going to show you it once more. So in the first stitch, we slip stitch. So slip stitch in there. Then we chain 10. Now we're going to do 9 increases all the way back down the chain. And once you've increased down every chain, you're going to slip stitch back into the original stitch. And then we slip stitch into the next stitch, which will have no tentacle in it. So now we've done that process twice. So we do the slip stitch, chain 10, increase back down the chain, and then slip stitch into the same stitch, and then slip stitch into the next stitch. And that is the process that you will need to complete now 7 more times, because we've done it twice over here. So we have 2 tentacles, and now you're going to need to do it 7 more times. So I'm now slip stitching into the very last stitch. And now we have completed that round and we have all of our tentacles. So we're going to curl them up tighter later, but first we need to put the safety eyes in. So we're going to put the safety eyes in on the opposite side to where our stitch marker is. So we're going to be putting the safety eyes in between rounds 7 and 8, approximately 6 to 7 stitches apart. We're going to grab the backings and we're going to clip those in. And once those are properly clipped in, we can move on to the next round. So as we went into the front loops only for the last round, for this round, we're going to be going into the back loops only. So you might be able to see a kind of like ring that was made with the loops that were not crocheted into, just like here. There's a bunch of lines around the outside, and these were the back loops that we did not crochet into. So we're going to find the first one. I haven't moved the stitch marker up as it's going to help me see where the back loops only are. So you can see that the first one is about here. It might help you a bit to just turn it inside out slightly. And we're just going to put our hook inside that back loop there. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to find, but we found it there, and you can see that there's other ones next to it. So you're just going to be putting your hook into one loop, as it should only be a back loop. And for this round, we're going to be doing single crochet decrease times by 6. But we're going to be doing it into the back loops only. So we're going to single crochet into that first back loop, and then we're going to find the next back loop, so one right here, and we're going to do the start of our decrease, and the next back loop. They should all be right after each other, and then we can finish off the decrease, and then we'll find the following back loop, single crochet, and then decrease into the next 2 back loops. And we're going to repeat that all the way around until we've done single crochet decrease times by 6. So once we have finished that round, this is what it should look like. And we're going to add some stuffing right now. So grab your stuffing, and the stuffing is important because you need to make sure to add enough, because when you start crocheting, I find that people often do not add enough stuffing. So really try and make the octopus like as fat as you can, I guess, because otherwise they can end up really squishy really quickly. Also at this point, you might notice that some of your little tentacles are not curled up tight enough, because you really want to curl them up quite tight. So just go around and just twist them to the right to ensure that they stay quite curled up. It can often depend on your tension on how tight they are. But we will now do the last round. So for this last round, we will be going into both loops as normal. So don't worry about the whole front loop and back loop situation. And we're going to just be doing 6 decreases, and that'll take us down to 6 stitches. You'll see there's sort of a connection between our round 11 and round 12 about here. So you might have to skip over a little bit to find the first stitch, which is over here, all the way over here, and we will decrease. So once you have done your 6 decreases, we are now going to finish off. So we're going to grab our scissors and we're going to leave a little bit of a tail. I'm just going to leave a small tail and cut that off. And we're going to put our hook back into where we had it, and we're just going to pull upwards, and we're just going to pull the tail through, and that's called finishing off. And we're going to grab our yarn needle to sew it shut. So we are going to be sewing into the front loops only. That's how we'll sew it shut. So we're going to find the first stitch of the next round, and we're going to go into the front loop only from the outside and then pull through. And then we're going to go out of the next loop from the inside, and then into the following stitch, out of the following stitch, into the next stitch, and out of the next stitch. And we're just going to pull so that this completely tightens like that. And now we can just bring the yarn through to a random point in the body and cut that off. So this is what the finished octopus looks like. I hope that you enjoyed crocheting your octopus. If you did, then make sure to check out the other videos on my YouTube channel as I create new tutorials every week. I also have a Patreon where I post 2 free patterns monthly. So if you want to go and join the 1 cent club or the 2 cent club on my Patreon, then the link will be up above. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye!